Welcome to the Decentral Gamer podcast, episode number 9. Today, we have an actual professional poker player, Mr. Diego. How you doing today, my man?
Hey, man. Excited to be here, and thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, this is gonna be awesome. Would love to just kind of set the stage a little bit for what we discussed before about what we would talk about on the show. So first, maybe we could dive into a little bit of your story and really how you became a professional poker player, and just kind of understand your chronology. And then would love to then transition into how you learned about DG, how it got on your radar, and crypto in general, and just talk about the ways you're getting more involved and some of the things you're excited about. So let's I think it's a really fun episode. So let's dive right in.
Okay.
We'd love to really hear your story of how you got to where you are today.
Okay. Well, I've been playing poker. This is my 10th year in poker. I started basically because I was going through the how do you say, traditional way, just going to college and trying to get a degree so I can get a regular job and my parents will be proud and stuff like that, and I will make some money and stuff like that. And then I started questioning myself if that's what I really wanted, and then I started questioning myself about if I would actually get financial freedom by doing that. And it didn't look like it would happen just by doing basic math. It just seemed pretty hard to do the traditional, way of doing things. To get a house or a car before like 30 years old or something like that. So at least where I was, which was in Peru, I'm from Peru. So I started questioning that, and then I met poker through Singa Poker, which is a game that started in Facebook, I think. And then I just went from there. And then I went to Brazil to study, to continue studying university. So I did actually graduate from university, and yeah, then I started playing more in Brazil. There was a little bit more. There was a more developing industry in poker, so I kind of got inspired from people that were already living from the game, and then basically when I finished the university, I had an opportunity to play poker for a living, and I already invested some money in courses and coaching and things like that. And I came back to Peru to live with my parents again. Then they support me for like 1 year or something like that, and then I was already doing well. Basically from there it's been a 10-year long journey that has been pretty good. And there are always challenges and obstacles, but I've been winning every year and improving, climbing stakes, and all of that. So I guess that's kind of the background.
Yeah, that's amazing. What about poker really was such a draw to you? I mean, did you naturally just like playing games, or what about it really captured your interest?
So I wasn't a gamer, and I wasn't really into it much, but I played pool when I was younger, and I also played some soccer. I like games in general, but I wasn't never really good at any of them. Like I was good, but never like really good. And then poker was basically the money, right? Like in the beginning, it was like that. It was like I saw a guy who was able to win like $10,000 in 1 day. And when you're from Peru and the economy here is different than in the US, so if you are seeing that someone is making $10,000 a day, I was thinking, well, as an engineer, I'm gonna make that in a year probably, in the first year as an engineer. So it's like, what is the point of doing that if I can learn a game where I can make much more in shorter time? So for me, it was important to make a lot of money in a short period of time because I wanted to be financially independent. That was my goal.
Mhm.
And probably it's because, I saw my parents taking loans from banks, struggle with that kind of thing. And I was like, I don't want to live like that. I don't want to live having to depend on money from a bank. So it became important for me to have money. And then with the years, I actually made some money. And then it was harder to play because I was like, I don't want to play anymore because I have some money now. But then I started falling in love with the game, just the strategy behind it, the risk you need to face, how to handle your losses, how to handle your wins, getting more mature, more responsible about how to work basically with poker. So I started just falling in love with growth, just the personal growth I was getting from being a professional poker player and what that meant. So I needed to reframe the way I was seeing poker and kind of put the money as in just as it would have a smaller meaning in my life, and then it would have a bigger my relationship with poker, to make it good, to make it healthy, it would be more important. And that's how I basically was able to arrive to this year, by focusing on growth, focusing on trying to improve as a person, as a poker player, as everything, because that's what basically poker teaches you. Like, you have leaks in your game, that's how we call them, like errors in your game, and then what you do is you try to improve your game all the time. And then in life, I've been trying to take that to my life, where I'm seeing a certain area of my life is not working, so I just try to improve it. And now that's kind of my relationship with the game. It's more like more of a love for the game than the money is like a secondary aspect.
I love that idea of, if you have leaks in your game, you work on it, you become a better player, become a better person, and you can then bring that to your life, where if you have leaks in your life, you can then work on it, become a better person that way. Yeah, I think that's tremendously important mindset.
Yeah, exactly. And something that really stuck in my mind, someone told me this like 1 year ago or 2 years ago, is like 99% of the problems are already solved. So that I might have, or I might experience. So I basically just need to look for people that already solved these problems. And in poker, it works like that, right? Like, there's always a player who's playing higher than you, that has gone through what you've gone through. So you need to look for coaching, assistance, I don't know, whatever you can get from someone who has more experience than you. And then in life is similar, right? Like, someone already went through, I don't know, financial problems, or like you are going to have a baby or whatever. Like, there are so many issues that we can have, but there is probably someone already that solves them. So if we look for help, if we look for a coach, if we look for psychologists, or someone who can assist us with this problem, this leak, we're just going to be able to solve it because it's being already solved. That's kind of my mentality.
That's amazing. So, just to make sure I understand, 99% of the problems that we face have already been solved by somebody else, and it's just a function of figuring out who solved them and how they did it, and then just applying that to our situation, and
Yeah.
voila, we're there. Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. So let's talk a little bit about your evolution as a player, because there are a ton of folks, a ton of decentral gamers who, they may not be super awesome at poker yet, but they definitely want to learn how to get better. And obviously, that makes, that gives them the ability to earn more and make themselves a little bit more comfortable in life, and become better people too. I think by studying those who have transcended, from the perspective of, like, you've gone through these evolutions, they'll probably face similar ones as well if they stick to it for long enough. So what were those different benchmarks, if you will, or milestones, that marked the different evolutions that you had as a player?
Yeah. So First of all, I always, I think this is kind of related to what I said before. I always just look for help. I always look for a coach, someone who teach me poker, basically. And then I hire this person, so I invest my money for them to teach me, and then I would just be, I don't know, I would just do it all the time, and I was able to learn from like I don't know, from a player from America, and then from a player from Europe, and then from a player from Brazil. Then I just always try to learn from different sources, and I also involve myself with different communities of poker players where I thought there's value. So uh, I always thought I don't know enough, so I need to learn from someone else, and that's what worked for me. I like to learn one-on-one most of the time, so getting a personal coach was very important for me. There are other ways, like joining a course and watching videos, and I've done some of that too, but it's much difficult. It's a little bit more difficult for me. Yeah, I rather have someone explaining me things, but the cost is higher at the same time. So it depends on where you are. You gotta find the balance between, depending on what you have to learn. If you want to learn basics, you probably can buy a course, and then if you want to learn something more specific about your game, you can hire a coach that can beat the sort of the games you want to beat. And then if you want to have more advanced coach, you probably need to invest a little bit more, but it's going to be worth it for sure. So yeah, I think that's kind of what I would say about it. Is that
Yeah. So I think kind of you were touching on it, and I want to really dig down into each section. So it seems like there's like the beginner, intermediate, and advanced.
Yeah.
I guess cohorts of players, right? So maybe you could talk us through like what are the things that people do that land them in the basic category? What are they then doing differently to put them in the intermediate category? And then what are the best players in the world doing? Just so we have some idea of like being able to understand where we are, where we fall in that range.
Yeah, it's complicated. The thing about poker, which is, I guess, it's similar to crypto, there is just a lot of information,
Mm-hmm.
and there are a lot of different games and different formats of games, and then all these formats have different strategies that you can apply, and that makes it really complicated to get into specifics. But let's say a player who's just learning the basics, what the first things you need to understand is how, well, let's say the mathematical aspect. Let's say the pot odds. How much your hand is worth in terms in relation to another player's hand strength, like your hand equity. And then you need to learn some pot odds. If you're on the river and someone bets 50 into 100, you need to learn like how much you need to win that pot to make it to have a profitable call and things like that. So it's like you need to learn pre-flop ranges, which from each position according to your stack. So how many chips you have, and then according to which position, how many of these hands you're supposed to play actually, and how many hands you're supposed to play in a passive way, then how many hands you're supposed to play in a aggressive way. So to sum that up, I would say you need to learn pot odds, which is kind of the mathematical aspect of the game, and then you need to learn pre-flop ranges, and with that you will have some sort of base line. There is a lot more to it, but it's a little bit hard to explain, I guess, for me. And then when you are an intermediate player, you want to be learning more about specific strategies, like how to play turn flop, turn river, and then how each of those interact, and how each of those change according to who you're playing against, what's your position. So if I think of a player who's playing in DG, I would say learning, a specific strategy. You're usually playing, I think, six people, right? So you want to make sure you know what type of hands you're playing from each position, and then you need to have like let's say an idea of what's your game plan for like the flop, and then go from there. And then what advanced players are doing, they are using more softwares that help you actually understand and interiorize these strategies. And they are spending a lot of time developing these simulations that allow you to have a much more clear visualization of how, what one range interact with another in different scenarios. And as I said, if you're playing poker tournaments, you will have one strategy, and then you're playing cash games, you'll have a different strategy, and then you're playing, versus a recreational player, you'll have one strategy, and then you're playing versus a very good player, you have a different strategy. So it gets very complex the more you are into it. So I would imagine the best players are doing a lot of studying off the tables and kind of getting together, studying together, exchanging ideas. But I think for a player who is starting or doesn't have any fundamentals, learning the fundamentals is like really important. The value of position, how important is if you have like 30 blinds or 100 blinds, how does that change things in your game? You have like 10 blinds, does that change things in your game? Like, you need to learn the fundamentals first so you can move. You have that base, it's going to be way easier for you to understand more advanced concepts. Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. I would highly encourage the gamers listening to like really think about what you just said, because like if the gamers listen back to that, there's so many different things that you can work on to improve your game. And when you think about it, what we're talking about is strategies that you can use, or just concepts that you can grasp in order to literally help you earn more. Like, these things, if you study and put in the time and work at it, like, it helps you become a better player and it helps you earn more. And so just to make sure, like, we kind of have some concrete things. So in the beginning, if you're total noob, like, focus on fundamentals, like understand what your basic hands are worth, which ones beat what, understand like how position impacts what how you play, and then the different ranges of like, okay, well, what's your stack size, and then how does that relate to everybody else's, and then maybe even try to get a sense of like how the other players play, and who they are. And then as you get more and more advanced, it seems like as you become an intermediate, you've got a handle on those fundamentals, you have a good idea of what you should be doing, and then it's just getting more comfortable or better with that in different scenarios. And then as you move to advanced, then you're really like digging in and understanding like, okay, these are the best things that I should be doing based on all these different scenarios. And you're just studying and learning and practicing, and then using software and other tools to help you become a better player. Did I get that right?
Yeah, I think that was a pretty good summary. If I can say, like, learning the fundamentals is going to be huge, and at the same time, just being aggressive. To be honest, that's like a huge thing that a lot of players can accomplish, and yeah. So if I could sum everything, I would say, if you are like you have risk aversion or something like that, that's not usually a thing for a lot of crypto people, but anyway, if you have some risk aversion, I would say, you gotta get comfortable with like putting the chips in whenever you think is worth putting the chips in and just taking risks and facing the uncertain outcomes that might arrive. And that takes a while to kind of shape your brain in that way. So that's also part of the process of going from basic to advanced. It's just kind of detaching from all the aggression that is going on in poker. Everyone is always putting you all in, putting you in certain difficult situations, putting you in high pressure spots. So that's part of the building your character as a poker player.
Absolutely. And that I definitely think is something that we degens of crypto do not struggle with, is being aggressive. I love that. So, okay, so let's talk a little bit about your journey with crypto and how, during this epic journey of becoming a better player, becoming a better person, honing your craft, now crypto exists. How did that first get onto your radar, and what was your journey with crypto?
Yeah, so I think poker players are like a lot of them, or maybe all of them, are like involved in crypto for some reason. I think it's a little bit like when you mid stake players or low stake players, they always look up what high stakes players are doing. So if they are meditating, they want to meditate, and then if they're in crypto, they want to be crypto. Mm-hmm. So for me, it was like the first time is like my friends are telling me we're gonna buy Bitcoin. That was like 2017 or something like that. And I was like, I have no idea what's this, like what's going on, but if you're gonna buy, I'm in, because like these guys are not stupid, like they're smart. Mm-hmm. Right? Like they're like good poker players, competitive, and they have friends, and they, and all of that. So the first time is like, if you're buying, I have some money that I can invest, so I just buy it too, and then just buying sometimes, just like I was thinking it about like as an emergency fund. Like if something goes wrong in my life, this is like my emergency fund, and I was doing anything else, just like holding it, and sometimes adding more, but not a lot. And then I think it was like until last year, and then I started like buying a little bit more, and then buying Ethereum, and then just that was like maybe 2 years ago. I don't remember exactly. And then I don't know, it just became more popular. And then I was like, okay, so maybe I should actually start learning about what's going on. And also some players that retire or migrated to actually become full-time crypto investors, I guess. I was seeing, okay, there are a lot of like smart poker players who are like actually into crypto. So I'm like, there's something going on here that I'm not aware of. So then I started studying more. At this point, I already learned some about Bitcoin and Ethereum. It's been like 3 or 4 years. So I was more aware of that. And then I basically started. I remember now. So I wasn't investing in anything else, like not stocks, nothing. I was like, then I learned, like I was losing money, and then I learned that I was very good at making money from poker. This is like my personal growth journey. And then I learned that I wasn't very good at keeping the money. I was always because I wasn't raised in a way that an investor think, mm-hmm. And I didn't have friends that were investors and anything like that. So I was like, okay, I need to start investing. I need to start learning how to invest. So there I started, like I was like on YouTube, like what is a stock? Like I didn't know what was, that was like 2 years ago. I didn't know what a stock was or a bond. I didn't know any of that. So I was like, okay, I gotta start here, and then I started learning what is an ETF, just like a classic, how do you say that? Assets classes, I don't know, traditional finance. And then I started learning about that. I started exchanging poker coaching with a financial advisor for him to, show me what demand and of what, how do you say that? Like demand and offer works.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Supply and demand.
Yes. Supply and demand, yeah. All those things. So, and then, I just got more into it. Then I find a guy who has a community who, have a subscription for like investing. So I kind of like the guy. And then I have already. I at this point I built my portfolio of like traditional finance, I guess is the name, and then he starts talking more about crypto. The same guy that I was following for like building my portfolio of like normal stocks. And then he just gets crazy about crypto, and then he starts talking more, and then he launches a course, and then I do the course, and then this is how I start getting more into the how do you say that into
like deeper into crypto.
Yeah. And then also from I don't know if this I don't also from I guess my core values in terms of like freedom, the whole idea of decentralization, the whole idea of not depending on banks or governments. I'm not very fan of anything related to politics or anything like that. So from that point of view, also made a lot of sense to me to put more of my time and efforts, and at the same time my money into things that it felt more in alignment with who I was or how I wanted the world to be in the future. So, then I was thinking about these ETFs that I was investing on, and I was thinking, like I'm buying ETFs where like Pfizer and companies like I didn't like are there. So I'm like, I don't want to give my money and support these companies because I don't like them. And I don't think as a regular investor who is like, if it makes me money, I put the money there. I can't think like that because this is not my job. Right. And so from that perspective, also I was thinking I need to, put some of my resources in things in projects or things that I actually believe in, and that, create a different type of value. And I understand, in crypto there is a dark side. There's a dark side in maybe regular traditional finance, and there's a dark side in poker as well. But I think for me it's about how I think and and how I want to live. So that's kind of what got me into it. And then I also got a little bit obsessed with like I wanted to learn a lot, and I wanted to be able to invest, because I was getting into a point where I had a lot of capital accumulation, but I didn't know where to put it because I was, as I said, like I didn't know anything. And then I just kind of got obsessed with learning, as any poker player, I guess. And then that's how I got into it. Then I started creating discussions in the community that I have now for poker players. I created a space for crypto where it helps me, it helps others. So I think it's important. At least the Bitcoin case, I started telling my family a little bit about the financial system. At this point, I already know a little bit more about how banks work and all of that. So it felt like a good thing. But now at the same time, I'm a little bit fed up with all of it because it's a lot and you just can't stop thinking about it. So I'm just trying to take a break.
Yeah, it's like it can definitely be just an avalanche of information, just all like piling into the brain. But that makes a lot of sense of like you started to figure out through honing your craft and through poker of like, okay, I can make money. And now I wanted more transition to understanding how I can then invest that money, and starting from the very beginning of like, what is a stock? What is a bond? I feel like so many people don't actually do that, of like starting from the beginning and getting down the fundamentals of finance. So I think it's just like poker.
Yeah, I felt embarrassed, that not knowing anything. I think Americans, they know way more just because there is a lot of investing in America going on, and in Peru it's even worse. Like it's just no one knows. Like we don't know how to invest. The general population has no idea how to invest. So it for me it was like when you are good at something, it's very hard to start something from the beginning and feel like a fool. And then I started from the beginning because I already had enough pain from like losing my own money by not knowing how to manage. But it wasn't like, I had to go through the pain to actually wake up and say, no, you have to learn about this. You can just tell someone, hey, invest for me, and it's all going to be fine. It doesn't work like that. So yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And even if you do want to do that, you need to know enough to keep them honest and to make sure that they're doing the right things, because it's your money. Like, you got to be responsible for it. So okay, so you went down this whole crypto rabbit hole, and I actually love the fact that you made a whole like little mini community within your bigger poker community that's like focused on crypto there. That's totally awesome. And I think the people that are contributing the most to the space are either like way deep down into the crypto rabbit hole that are innovating and building, but then on the other side, it's people that are bringing others into crypto and educating them and helping be like an on-ramp for more people to participate in crypto. So I actually think you're providing a tremendous service to everybody in the crypto community by doing that. So that's amazing. So you're doing all this. How do you then find out about DG, and when you did, what really captured your interest and piqued your interest about it?
Yeah, so I created a Discord community for poker players. I started a blog there, sort of detailing my poker journey. And then I have a lot of friends who are poker players, so they kind of got excited. They wanted to make their own blog. And then there are like a bunch of blogs that you can read about like poker players and their journey, from low stakes players to high stakes players. And then there's one guy who just basically talks to me through the blog, responds some of my posts, and then this guy is basically one guy who works for DG. And then we started talking about it. At this point, I am like, okay, I think it was last year, so it was still in beta. It wasn't even public yet. And he tells me to test it to see what I think and all of that. So we started talking about like, oh, this is crazy. Like, I'm in this metaverse when I'm like in a casino, and then at this point there were like 2 tables, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're just trying out if it's working or not and what's working. And then it was very early, and I didn't know enough about tokenomics, and then about how is this supposed to work. DG wasn't the way it is now. So I was like, yeah, man, like, this thing has improved, like, it looks kind of cool, but then we just kind of leave it there, and then we continue talking with the time. And I also asked him, I sent like a USDC to the wrong how do you say that, the wrong network. I asked this guy because he was like crypto, he knew about crypto. I asked this guy help me. Then we started talking again, and then he's helping me about like to recover my money. And then this is kind of the mistakes you go through when you are new into something. So I went through all of mistakes, and then I asked about DG, and then we started talking more and more. Then I joined again, and then things are moving, and then it's looking cool. There were a lot of major improvements in the whole thing, and what got my attention is the idea of I think play to earn is how you call it, and I think this was also only developed last year, right? I think before that they had another idea of how to work with DG, with ICE Poker at least, and then they created this play to earn idea that wasn't there the first time I joined. And as a Peruvian, I'm telling you that there are a lot of players that don't have funds to play poker normally, as I play it, and I was one of them. And at the same time, there are a lot of players that want this type of opportunity. for DG. So this is the one of the things that felt very attractive for me. I know there are a lot of Peruvian poker players and probably in other countries, or not even poker players, that people who aspire to be a poker player, that maybe they don't have funds or they don't have the time. If I'm going to hire a player for my team for like being a professional poker player, this is going to consume all of his time, like it's going to be like 12 hours a day, all the time, maybe more. Just need to become obsessed about poker to compete in like the normal poker competitions. And not everyone has access to that. Not everyone can put 12, 40 hours every day to become good at something and make money of something. So, and I understand also it's not for everyone. So when I see DG, I see, okay, so people can play poker and have a different access, right? A way of playing, the number of hours they want to dedicate. And there is also less variance. You don't necessarily need to invest your own money to play it. So all of this felt very appealing for so many players that many times ask me for opportunities, and I'm just not able to fulfill those opportunities. So I feel that this ICE Poker fills a gap into the poker industry, So, and then at the same time, there is the investor side. Me as an investor now, I can not only capture players who, I don't know if the word is capture, but like say work with players that want to be professional poker players, that I actually teach them weekly, and then they want to dedicate their whole time to it. But I can also work with players that maybe they don't have a lot of capital, and maybe they just don't have a lot of time. Maybe they have and maybe with this poker game, they can make way more money than they are making in Peru in a regular job or whatever. So as you said, it's about providing opportunity. It's about also the investor side. I see there is a financial passive return that I can make, and at the same time, well, I'm a poker player, so I'm well known in poker in my country. So people, if they wanna interact with this, they will probably reach it through me. So I guess I'm in a position where I can actually be the bridge for those things to happen.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think probably one of the most important things that you said was it gives people who want to play poker the ability to not have to spend 12 to 15 hours a day, but still be involved with the game in some way, shape, or form.
Exactly.
It gives people who otherwise would have had to work a job that maybe they don't really like the ability to now play a game and earn more money, and the game happens to be poker and it's super fun at the same time.
Exactly. It's like and the whole idea about poker, it's always been the fun,
Right.
from the beginning. That's like rule number one. If you're not having fun, like when you're playing poker, and I can tell you from my experience, I've been training a lot of players, and like it could take 2 or 3 years to become profitable, like really profitable, like without struggling and working your ass off all the time. Maybe 2 or 3 years, for an average player. So yeah, in ICE Poker, you can just start and make money right away. So you can make a little bit or a little more, if it depends on your ability. But still, it just provides, I think, an environment that, as I said, it supports certain profiles of players or certain people with certain background, that it's useful. It's just useful, and that's the important thing. And yeah, it's fun.
It's amazing. It's almost like, from the perspective of helping people go from their maybe rookies to pros in poker, this is almost a launch pad where the risks for them are not nearly as high, because they can come in, they can play ICE Poker, and they can actually start making money as they continue to learn more about the game. And they don't have to go through that 2 to 3 year period of losing, which is what they used to have to do. Now they can start earning from day one, as they can earn as they learn. Like, to me, it's an amazing launch pad to help people begin their poker careers and not have to feel the pain of what you may have had to go through, and other players that you know.
Yeah, man. Like I'm telling you, at the beginning it's very hard. Like, you know, even if you make some money, now you have to buy like a computer, right? Like you have to buy a chair. You just don't start with these things, or you know, and in poker, in not regular poker, you just have a lot of uncertainty. You are not very good yet, so you don't know if you'll make money next month. And it's very hard if you are like already, like, you know, after 30 years old, if you have like kids or bills to pay. I started young, and I had my family support me in the first year, so I was in my room. I had no bills, I had nothing to pay. But not everyone started like me. You know, there are players that we have in our team that, you know, they already have 2 kids, they have you know, they have responsibilities, and it's not easy. And at the same time, it depends on the culture, right? Like some cultures, like in the US, I guess, like, if you are like 18 years old, your parents say, all right, bye, and, you know, find your way and find a place to live. In Peru, no, you can live with your parents until like you're 35 or whatever. But in many cultures, it's not like that. So you gotta find a way to be independent, you know, and create resources and create you know, financial resources. So it's important. And yeah, I agree with you. It's a good entry point for if you want to get experience with poker, and if you want to have fun, and if you want to see how the game works. Yeah.
I love that. So as you're seeing people get more into DG, and you obviously have a ton of experience at a lot of different levels of play, how do you think the level of play is right now in the DG ecosystem, and how would you best approach that as a player looking to maximize earnings?
Yeah. So I played it like maybe 4 times, and I actually had different tables. Some players felt more competitive, and they gave me a little bit more of a hard time. And some just felt really amateur, right? So most of them, yeah. So basically, and then if I want to give a suggestion or for players who have to be you know, increase your level of ability, the first thing I said is be aggressive. You gotta be aggressive. You gotta play a lot of hands. You gotta take the initiative whenever you can, and you gotta be annoying. The players who are like annoying me are like the ones who are not allowing me to steal the pot from them. If you're always allowing me to take the pot from you, you are not giving me a hard time, and your job is to give me a hard time. So, you know, you're gonna be you know, the way I always explain this is that when you get, let's say you get to a physical, actually live table, if you see this one guy who is like, oh my god, this guy again my table, like if you're already thinking like that, that's the guy you want to be. You know, that you want to be the guy who is like, you don't want them to be your table. So for that, you need to play a lot of tables. I mean, a lot of hands. You want to be a little bit tricky, and then you want to be aggressive. And then if you can play a lot of hands, you can be aggressive without being completely reckless, right? I think you'll do much better than most people.
So that was literally the next thing I was thinking about, is how do you go aggressive without just totally losing your shirt?
Yeah, it's hard. That's when it comes. That's the artistic part of the game, right? That you wanna be able to deceive your opponents in different ways. So you know you don't want to be aggressive in a way that if there is a 200 pot, 200 chip spot, you put 2,000. That's not great, right? Because you are just investing a lot to win a little. So just to put it in simple words. So you always want to be risking, but risking an amount that is worth what you are going to get in return. That's the best way I can put it. So, and then at the same time, and there are many ways to be aggressive. You can bet the flop, you can raise the turn, you can check the flop and bet the turn, you can check the flop, check the turn, bet the river, you can bet all of the streets. You know, you can bet the flop, turn, and river, or you can just do many things. And then there are aggressive actions that don't necessarily cost you so much money if you don't put the money all the time in all of the streets, right? So that's kind of what I would say. You know, you can find, let's say, cheap ways to bluff your opponents, and yeah, that's kind of the what I would say. You know, you don't want to be raise, bet all the time. You don't want to be all in all the time. That's going to be the reckless side of you know, the a version of a poker player. And you want to be, you know, racing here. You know, if you have like a really ugly hand, just don't play it. So, you know, give people time to play themselves. And then, you know, if you have beautiful, nice hands, then you can just play them. And then the point is, you know, don't be the passive guy most of the time, unless you're like in the big line. But yeah,
I love this idea of finding cheap ways to be aggressive and to make other players uncomfortable. What are some, maybe you could give us just a couple of examples of scenarios in which you can do this, because this is so important.
Well, let me think. Let's say you have like a, you know, a drawy board, a board which is really connected. Usually in these boards you don't want to be putting all of the money in unless you have something good. So you got to start finding some checks on the flop, or maybe finding some checks on the turn. And then, you know, if someone just shows you weakness more than once, it's usually really already an opportunity for you to take the pot, right? And then you can bet big, you can bet small, you can bet a medium sizing, and that usually will get the job done. And then you can follow up with another bet. But then, you know, for example, you have a pot of 100, and then you have 2,000 chips. You know, you're going to bet 50, and then the pot's going to have 200, and then you're going to bet like 150. So it's going to be fine. You won't be risking your whole tournament or life or all of your chips of the day. So it won't matter so much. So usually you want to be applying cheaper bluffs when players are showing you that they are not willing to put the money themselves. Why? Because that's kind of obvious, right? Like when a player has a good hand, he's always looking to put money on the pot. So if they're checking, they're probably not very strong, right? So that's kind of where you want to attack. You always want to attack when players are being kind of conservative, passive, checking more. And as you know, if there was already on the street where there was a check, you are already not going to invest 3 streets or 4 streets. You are going to invest 2 streets or 1 street. So that's what I would say. You know, that if you can bet like 2/3 of the pot, half of the pot, 1/3 of the pot, with any of those like bets, you will be actually fine. On the general side, that's kind of what comes to mind. You know.
So yeah. go after weakness. When people are not being aggressive, like go after them.
Yeah, and this is, I guess, I focus a lot on bluffs about what I said, but there is something very important, which is your value hands. That's like the most important, actually. and don't be tricky with your value hands.
And what do you mean by those? What do you mean by those?
Like, don't try to check back so you can like trap them or something like that, because you're missing value if you're checking with your strong hands. So when you have a strong hand, you want to be, especially if you were like the aggressor in the beginning of the hand, you have the initiative, you always want to be putting the most money you can with your strongest hands. This is what's going to give you the actual how do you say that?
Like your edge, your advantage.
Yeah. Like, this is the most important. If you are missing some bluffs, that's okay. From time to time, find these bluffs. Just be courageous and find these bluffs. But most importantly, be greedy with your value hands. That's super important. Like, yeah, that's gonna give you like huge edge. And don't try to fall strong hands pre-flop, like ace king or something like that. Like, just don't do that. Never. They're always very. I see players, in my career, like, always try to find a justification to find the hero fold and things like that. You don't have to. You have chips the next day, so it's fine. And so in general, yeah. The main drive of poker is your value hands.
So when you have strong hands, focus on playing those right and be aggressive with them. Maybe that could be one of the biggest takeaways here is go hard on your great hands.
Yeah. There are a lot of players like, oh, I don't want to bet because he's going to fold, so I feel bad if he folds. And then I'd rather check and let him bet, right? Something like that with strong hands. But in general, that's not how it works, because you want to put a lot of as much as the money as you can with your strongest hands. So yeah, you get paid.
Love it. Diego, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today. I know you're a busy man, professional poker player, and seems like you're doing a lot of other things. So I really appreciate you coming on the show today. Been a lot of fun. Just want to end off the episode by just asking for one last piece of alpha, whether it be life advice, poker advice, how to be a better person, something that we can really take away from this one last piece of alpha.
I think what has been really common in my life that I noticed, a lot of people ask me how I became successful and all of that, and I always say I just ask for help. If I have issues in my relationship, like my intimate relationship, I look for a relationship therapist or like a relationship coach or someone who can help me with this. And then if I'm also a father, so if I have issues with my kids or me just being a father, I go talk to someone who is a father, or I just always ask for help and always come from the idea that I don't know something. And try to learn from someone who has already been through this. So I don't consider myself talented or like a genius or anything like that. I just basically go and look for people who, what I said before, like I already solved the things that I'm going through. And that has helped me create resources, build friendships, and build relationships that has improved my life and allow me to live in a way that I actually wanted to live.
Amazing. Again, Diego, thank you so much for coming on the show today. This has been a real treat. And
thank you, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you to everybody watching and listening. Want to give a quick shout out to the comments. Keena Boy, Tom, appreciate y'all for coming in, tuning in live. Right on, guys. See y'all on the next episode. Peace out.